evening, everyone. Today we're going to learn about the skeletal system. In the skeletal system, we're going to learn about the bones like the skull and also we are going to learn about the joints. So let's get started. So now the skeletal system, a framework of bones joining together, is called skeleton. It contains of many parts like the skull, rib cage, limbs, etc. An adult has 206 bones. A baby has 305 to 306 bones. It protects our internal organs such as heart, lungs, and our brain. Our body would be like a jelly without the bones. The bones produce bone marrow. So now this bone marrow is basically inside the bone, which I'll show you right now after this slide. The bones contain of calcium. So that's why our parents insist us on drinking milk, which contains most amount of calcium. So remember that milk is a source of calcium. Okay. So now I'll show you how bone marrow looks like. Now this is the bone marrow. So over here, this is our bone and this is another layer. So now this is the bone marrow which is inside the bone. Now let's move on to the next slide, which is the skull. So now the skull protects our brain. It gives our face a shape. The lower jaw is not connected to the skull. The skull has 22 bones. The lower jaw and the upper jaw only have teeth. Okay, so now in this one we can see that in our skull there are 22 bones, so which are joined together. There are parts which I'll show you in the next slide. Okay, so now this is the lower jaw and the upper jaw. So now this lower jaw is the only movable jaw, or you can say bone, in the skull. Other all are attached together. Look, that's why it's like this, so that when we talk it goes back and forth. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next slide. Rib cage. The rib cage protects our heart and lungs. It has a front and a central bone which holds the ribs from the front, called the sternum. Sorry for spelling it wrong. Okay, now we'll continue. It has a front and central bone which holds the ribs from the front, called sternum, and the backbone holds the ribs from the back. Now we have 12 pairs of ribs. So now one pair of bones are not attached to the sternum. They are attached to the backbone, which are called as floating ribs. Now I'll again show you another slide which will contain the picture of a rib cage. So now this is the rib cage. Now this is the sternum over here, and these are the ribs. So now I'll show you which are the floating ribs. So now these ribs you can see over here and over here also. There's one back over there. Now in this you can basically see that this is not joined to the sternum. but it is joined to the backbone. So those are called as floating ribs. Now we'll learn about the backbone. Now this backbone protects our delicate spinal cord. It is made from small bones called vertebrae. It is also called the vertebral column, which means the backbone is also called as vertebral column, and it extends from our brainstem, which is the medulla, which I had taught you in the last video. I had told you about the brainstem, which is the medulla. So if you want, I'll put the link in the description below. Okay, so now we'll go on to the limbs. Now there are two types of limbs, the upper limb, which is our hands, and the lower limb, which is our legs. So now the upper limb consists of two parts, upper arm and the lower arm. So now this upper arm has one bone called the humerus, and the lower arm has two bones called ulna and radius. Now the lower limb consists of two parts, upper leg and lower leg. So now the upper leg has one bone called femur, and remember that femur is the strongest bone, and the lower leg has two bones, which is tibia and fibula. Now we'll move on to the next slide. We'll learn about girdles. So now girdles are ring shaped. They're present in our hip and shoulders, and they can move in all directions. Now we'll move on to the joints. So now in the joints there are four types of joints: the ball and socket joint, the hinge joint, pivot joint, and the gliding joint. So now in the ball and socket joint, it is cup shaped. It moves in all directions, and it is present in the hip and shoulder. Now the hinge joint. So now the hinge joint can only move back and forth. It is present in our elbow, fingers, and our knee. Now pivot joint. It is found between our vertebra and our skull. It can move back, forth, and sideways. So now, as I had told you, vertebra are small bones in our backbone. So you can research about it if you want. And there are 32 vertebrae in our backbone, and they're irregular in shape. Now the gliding joint helps our bone to slide with each other. So now in this line, main point is to slide with each other. Our bone to slide with each other. Now it is there in our wrist and our ankle joint. So now if you try to move your wrist all around in all directions, it will help you because your bones are actually sliding together. So that's why you can actually move it in all directions. So it is present in our wrist and ankle joint. Ankle is in your leg. So now that's it for today. I'll meet you in the next video. So do type it in the comment box below if you have any questions or doubts, and don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon so that you will be the first one to watch my video. Don't forget to like and share my video. Bye, have a nice day. And the code word is that so the code word is thank you. If you have watched the full video, of course you'll type it in the comment box below. So bye everyone.